and welcome to a DFS preview for the 2024 US Open. My name is Eric, and here at SweetSpotDFS, it's all about trying to hit the optimal lineup every single week. And in these preview videos, I do that by going over the course and tournament information, the pass optimal and GPP winning lineups, and I like to go over the bucket system, which if you're unfamiliar with that, I do have a video that you can watch that explains all about it. You can find a link for that video down in the description of this one. Click on that. You'll really only need to watch the first 4 or 5 minutes to really get an understanding of it. Or I have an article on my website. So if you're unfamiliar with the website, highly encourage you to go check it out. It's called SweetSpotDFS.com. You can also find a link for that in the description below. So you don't even have to type anything out. Click that link, come here. If you don't have an account, I encourage you to do so. Giveaways in the future are going to revolve around this website. So if you're not there, go do it. I also want to mention there are some key stats that you're going to want to look, some key strategy pieces, one that can be found under the members only tab. Now, to get access to the members only, you do have to be a paying member. So it's going to be behind a paywall. Weekly subscription, monthly, yearly, whatever you want to choose. I also have a founding member if you just want to have lifetime access. But this is what you're going to get. Now, I have the Memorial Tournament information still populated. I want to give you the opportunity to see how well it did. So as you can see, I have these things called combo buckets. Now, I go over the 7K combo buckets usually in the videos, and I also provide the 7K combo buckets for free that you can see right here. That is, well, you have to be a free member. You have to create an account, but it is free for you. However, just so you know, these combo buckets have been successful. As you take a look here, if you know how this works, I explain it in all of my strategy videos. I also have a combo buckets article that you can read. Here, let me just go ahead and click down on that. I'll let that load. But as you can see, a lot of these buckets were successful, the combo buckets, and how I explain them every single week. Usually when you see these lines here, that top golfers above that top line, you want to pick at least one of those golfers. So Scotty Scheffler obviously won the tournament. Come down here, Matsuyama was 8th. I had mentioned Matsuyama being one of my favorite plays. You come down here, Sung Jae was in the GPP winning lineup. Matt Fitzpatrick was also in the GPP winning lineup for the 8K combo buckets. So this is all available for you. And oh, by the way, 6K combo buckets are also here. And as you can see, Nick Dunlap was the top of my list. He was in the optimal lineup as well as the SweetSpot optimal. And then you had Adam Hadwin right in the middle. Again, I explain all about these. If you want access to this, you got to be a paying member. Now, like I said, I do have 2 articles written. One is about combo buckets. The other one is about the bucket system. So if you want to read about what those are, you can do so for free. Again, you're going to have to create a membership, but it's not difficult. If I go to a new incognito mode and I go ahead and put in SweetSpotDFS.com and I go to log in, all I gotta do is hit join now and choose this free membership. Now, I will note something. I had an issue with the user earlier. You need to click on this, wait for it to load. There's a plugin that works behind it. Mine did it quick. When you sign in or when you fill all this information in, hit submit and continue or submit and confirm. If you don't see like a processing symbol down here, try it again. Click it again. If not, refresh this page. I also have a CAPTCHA down here that it should send you to. If not, again, refresh the page. And then obviously that will create it. Sorry for the headache, but that's just how it goes. But yes, it is free. You just put in a username, password, email address, super simple. And then once you do that, you will gain access to everything. Unless my articles are free. Articles are free. You don't have to create an account for that. But the 7K combo buckets, you will. It says it's reserved for free weekly, monthly, yearly, and founding members. So if you want access to that, or you want to see what that looks like, it just looks much like the other members only. But these are the 7K combo buckets for the Memorial Tournament. And you can see, again, you want at least one golfer above this black line, this very top line. And there it was. Sepp Straka was an optimal lineup golfer. Billy Horschel was in the GPP winning lineup. And then the next one was Christian Bezuidenhout. So the combo buckets were on fire last week. And I anticipate they're going to be on fire this week as well. I will load in the combo buckets after my live stream Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. That's when I start it. Once I'm finished with it, I will put in the new combo buckets for the US Open. So again, if you want access to this, become a member of SweetSpotDFS.com. Now, I should have started with this, but I do like to do giveaways. I'm giving away $100. Again, I should have started with this, but I am giving away $100. You can see it right up there. All I need to do is get 3 new subscribers that you see way over there to the left. Once I hit those 3, I will give away $100 during the live stream Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. I'm going to repeat it so you guys know, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. But I do need to get 3 new subscribers. If not, I'll give a monthly subscription to SweetSpotDFS.com. And that's it. I will also have a weekly giveaway. If you didn't already know how to participate, I have it right there in the middle. Be subscribed, comment on any of my videos. For the US Open, I'm going to have this preview video that's going to have everything included in it. And then I'm going to cut this preview video into 3 other videos. Course and tournament information, pass optimal GPP win lineups, and then the bucket system. So that's all going to be available to you to comment on. Each comment gives you an additional entry into the giveaway. And again, I will give away $100 if we reach 750 subscribers before the video tomorrow finishes. So when I stream at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, I need 750 before I log out. If I don't get them, I just give away a membership, a monthly membership to one of you users, one of you viewers. Again, you're going to have to create an account in order for me to give one to you. So visit SweetSpotDFS.com. And if you didn't know, I do have a Prize Picks promo. Use SweetSpot for your promo code when you sign up. Put at least $20 in your account and you're going to get $20 from me. But Prize Picks will match your deposit up to $100. So if you want extra money in your account and still get the $20 from me, go ahead and put up to $100 in there. Put 60, put 80, whatever you feel like. You're still getting $20 from me. Use the SweetSpot promo code. There is a link for the sign up down in the description of this video. And that would be kind of the reminders for giveaways. Also, if you didn't know, the website offers the optimizer. I will have an optimizer once I get all of the tee times from the PGA Tour. All you need to do to get the optimizer is come here, put in your email address, and then request now. That's all you need to do. It's under Fantasy Tools. You actually don't have to be a member for this, so you can do this for free. Also, there is a cheat sheet. If you did not know, click on that cheat sheet. You're going to have to be logged in to your Google account in order to access it. You can see it through the website here, or you can click on this click here button, and that will bring you to the cheat sheet. Again, you're going to need to be logged in order to use all of the filters, all of that good stuff. But as I go throughout this video, you can follow along with me on this cheat sheet. It's available to you for free. If you can't access it through the website for whatever reason, there is a link in the description for that as well. Okay, let's move on. Let's get into the preview video. We're going to start with the course and tournament information. When it comes to the course and tournament information for the US Open, most of you already know this is a rotunda. Well, not so much a rotunda, but there's always a new golf course every single year that the US Open is played at. This year it is Pinehurst number 2. This is one of those well-known golf courses that the PGA Tour has played before. In 2014, to be exact, was the last time the PGA Tour or the US Open was hosted at Pinehurst number 2. I don't think it really matters to use data from 2014. You can if you want. And by the way, as I go through these tournament fact sheets, the reason that I go through these are just to give you the data points you should use for researching. Obviously, we're at the US Open, Pinehurst number 2, like I said. And again, you can find this at the gcsaa.org. I shouldn't say again, I didn't even mention that before, but that's where you can find the tournament fact sheets. You have a par 70, 35 on the front, 35 on the back, 7,500 yards. None of this information is that important. I like to use the turf grass. And if you didn't know, I suppose I should have had the cheat sheet up. Let me go ahead and click here. If you didn't know, I include the grass type. It is Bermuda this week. So let me zoom in just a little bit so you guys can see this. If you look under the course fit information, it is Bermuda grass that I am using. And if you need to know, I go back to 2013 and I'm looking at their average finishing position. So obviously Scotty Scheffler didn't play in 2013, but he has 36 Bermuda events under his belt. And of those 36, he's averaging 22nd place. Of course, these stats are averaged. So when he first came out on tour, you know, he was missing cuts and stuff like that. Not a lot, but obviously those are baked into these numbers as well. But that also goes with all of the golfers. So you can find out who's the best on Bermuda. And this is just their overall average finishing position. You can also see what kind of clip they're hitting when finishing inside the top 10 on Bermuda tracks. So again, this is looking at all the Bermuda golf courses that they've ever golfed and seeing how frequently they finish inside the top 10. That's what this stat here represents. And then last year, Bermuda is just looking at from this date back 365 days, all the events that have had Bermuda golf courses, what is their average finishing position? So you're going to see someone who's a bit more hot, like a Scotty Scheffler finishing 7th on, or his average finishing position 7th, but then look at Rory. Rory's average finishing position's 8th. He plays pretty well on Bermuda tracks, so keep that in mind. But yeah, you can find all the information. I do have a strength of field rating here as well. What goes into strength of field is what the old OWGR system was. So you're looking at their FedEx Cup rankings from last year. You're looking at their current OWGR, and then there's a formula that's built in that creates the strength of field rating. I like this better because it really, you can see the big differences between a really good golf tournament where there is a very strong strength of field like this one, and a weak tournament where the strength of field's like 160 or even worse yet, 60. You know, if you're looking at the Cross Punta Cana, you're going to see a 60 for a strength of field rating. So you can really see the big differences between what's a tougher tournament versus what is a quote unquote easier tournament. All that information is available to you as well. I suppose let's continue talking about the tournament fact sheets. So Bermuda grass. I just wanted to mention to you that there was Bermuda on that cheat sheet for the grass stat. This is one of the most important things. Greens are Bermuda. In 2014, they were bent grass, just so you know. They changed it to Bermuda. And then everything else. So you can just see it's Bermuda. And of course, if you haven't been watching other videos, Pinehurst is a little unique. Basically, you have fairway, and then you have native grass and sand. So it's their bunkers, native grass, and fairway. That's about it. And the native grass are just like weird bushy type of, can't remember what they're called, wispy grass, I guess. It makes for an interesting turnout or tournament. I think the fairways are going to be playing firm and fast to try to promote more golf balls, you know, kind of trickling on into these native areas where a golf ball could be behind a knoll of grass, like really tall, wispy grass, where, you know, a golfer just isn't going to have a clean shot to the green. So it can be penalizing, very, very penalizing. What does that mean for you for research? Nothing. It doesn't mean anything. I mean, you could look at fairway percentage, like how often a golfer hits the fairway, or driving accuracy, I suppose. You could use all that stuff, but then you're going to get too cute and you're going to be on, you know, all 6 golfers of just the best driving stats possible. And you're probably not going to be able to create a good lineup with those golfers in it. So when we get into the strategy portion of it, where we're talking about anchor buckets, combo buckets, all that kind of stuff, I think we're going to get on better golfers that way versus just saying, hey, check out all these stats. Did you know that driving accuracy is going to be very important this week because, well, you know, you might be at the fates of the golf gods if you decide to be a little bit risky hit a driver off of a tee where you probably should hit an iron for accuracy purposes, you might run off into these native grasses and penalize yourself. How are you going to know that? Honestly, how are you going to know that? You're not. So I say all this information for you to hear it and take into account whatever you would like, but I'm also going to say, look at it with trepidation. Like it's not that big of a deal, honestly. I think you still want to look at the best golfers you can possibly put into a lineup. I don't think you want to get really cute when building your lineups. Just build a good quality lineup and you should be fine. You know, Scottie Scheffler is going to win this tournament anyway, so what difference does it make? Who else you put in with Scottie Scheffler? That's a joke. It's a joke, but I do think Scheffler, if I put a percentage, I'm going to give him a 70% chance to win. I think it's going to be over 70, and then the rest of the field has a 25, 30% chance to win. Something like that. But anyways, for the course and tournament information, you can find some more additional notes on the tournament fact sheets, whatever you would like. I don't find much more interesting. Donald Ross is the architect of this golf course, and then Bill Corr and Ben Crenshaw came in and renovated it in 2009, 2011. You can use that for researching purposes as well. When it comes to the tournament, I already went over the strength of field rating. Just a reminder, the US Open's top 60 in ties for your cut. And I guess if we really wanted to, we can look at 2014. I think okay. I did a kind of a course breakdown for Pinehurst. You can kind of see that on the screen right here. I mapped it out. I looked at it and I was trying to think of what is the preferred shot shape when it comes to this golf course. And all the shot shapes that I have put here, in this column, it's off the tee. In this column, it's approach. And whatever shot shape I put, to me, is a benefit for scoring. Hitting that type of shot shape will be a benefit when it comes to scoring. It doesn't mean it's absolutely necessary. So I want to be very clear with that. Doesn't mean it's absolutely necessary. It's just a preferred shot shape for scoring purposes, or a lot of these greens on this golf course are, they call them turtleback, but where I'm from, we call them crowned greens. So like they're kind of on this mound, basically. And hitting approach shots, some of these shot shapes are required because the green sits at a funny angle. And if you hit a shot shape, it actually widens the green out because you'll have more distance you can work with when landing that golf ball into the green with the correct shot shape. Whereas if you're going to cross, dissect it, or how do you say it? Cross-sect it? I don't know. But say if the green was laying like this and the ball was coming in like that. If the ball was coming in perpendicular to it, the landing area is very small. Whereas if the green's like this and the ball, how do I do this? Like this, and the ball's coming in here, or I guess like this, you're going to have a wider landing area. There's just going to be more green for that ball to work and to stay on the green. I know that was probably a very bad visual, but I hope you understand what I mean. If not, I can explain more about it during my live video tomorrow at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. So as I see it, there are more fades that are beneficial for this golf course than there are draws. And I guess one way to confirm that is to see which golfers finished inside the top 10 in 2014, because there haven't been any major renovations that have happened at Pinehurst since 2014, at least not when it comes to like routing of the golf course or changing dog legs from left to right. I'm going to go over these. Martin Keimer was known for hitting a fade. He won that tournament by 8 shots. I couldn't tell you what Eric Compton did back then. I really don't remember. He's not a super notable golfer when it comes to, I guess his skill level. Like he had a really good story going into 2014, but outside of that, when it comes to his skill level, No offense, but no one's paying attention to it. Ricky Fowler hits a draw. Keegan Bradley hits a draw. Jason Day hits a draw. Dustin Johnson hits a fade. Brooks Koepka hits a fade. Stenson hits a fade. Scott can shape it both directions. Snedeker and Walker hit draws. So too does Jim Furyk. Matt Kuchar hits a fade. I think he hits a draw. Justin Rose hits a fade. JB Holmes hits a fade. I don't know what Marcel Siem does. Poulter hits a fade. So it's a mix between draws and fades. So you can do whatever you want, I think. I still give a nod to those that fade the golf ball, or if fading is a little bit more natural. There are some landing areas off the tee that are sloped, kind of like TPC Harding Park. If you remember that golf course, you had fairways that were tilted, and hitting a shot shape against that tilt keeps the ball in the fairway. Whereas if you were to hit, like, if the tilt's like this and the ball's like coming in like a draw, it's going to camber into the rough. So keep things like that in mind. Personally, I don't think it's absolutely necessary to choose golfers based off of shot shapes. Honestly, I don't think it matters all that much. I'm just giving you some information. You do with it as you will. If I was to tell you to put weights into what matters, I'd put 1 point out of 100 into shot shape. That's it. That would be it. And I say this every single week. And if you want to know what some of the shot shapes these golfers hit, I do have that on the cheat sheet. If you go to the cheat sheet and you go to the shot shapes, you're going to see for most of these golfers, I do have shot shapes in there, and it's their preferred shot shape. It is what I have noticed. What if they have a straight ball, if they have a straight shot to the green, what is their preferred shot shape? It's either I've seen it with my eyeballs or I've heard them talk about it. So you do with that as you will. Like I said, it's really only just like a point of a weighting measure that you should put into it out of 100, like 1/100th of importance, basically. So it's still available for you. That's all I'm trying to get at, is it's available to you. And if you believe in that kind of stuff, it's at your fingertips. Outside of that, I think that covers everything that I need to talk about with, US Open. You have qualifiers, right? You're going to have this 5K range down here. I just avoid it. Yeah, I don't think you need to get super cute with grabbing any of these golfers down here. Now, Chad Campbell, I think it was Chad Campbell. No, not Chad Campbell. Michael Campbell, I believe his name is. He was a US Open qualifier. Was not on any of the tours. It was kind of a Cinderella story. He won the US Open, I think, at Pinehurst back in 2007. It was one of the earlier Pinehursts, I believe. He's one of the first and only, not one of the first. There were golfers earlier than him, but one of the only golfers to have been a qualifier to have won the US Open. Now, we're obviously in this DFS world, we're putting lineups together of 6 golfers. So it doesn't really matter if we think a golfer is going to win or not, but I also look at top 10 finishes. That's the whole SweetSpot brand. I'm looking at optimal lineups, optimal plays. You don't see many of these golfers. Like, you're going to have a less than 1% success rate hitting one of these golfers down here to finish inside the top 10 or to be in the optimal lineup. And again, that's the whole purpose here is at SweetSpotDFS. It's about hitting the optimal lineup. So I would just ignore these golfers. In fact, check in tomorrow during the live stream, the strategy video that I'm going to have. I'm going to talk about these 6K golfers, or not so much 6K. They're 5K, but I've kind of spoiled what I do something different with pricing, and I will let you know in this next segment of Pass Optimal and GPP winning lineups. But I think you just avoid a lot of these golfers down here. If you don't know who they are from name value, don't play them. It's probably a good rule when it comes to the US Open. Okay. Let's move on to the next segment, which is Pass Optimal and GPP winning lineups. This is presented to you by the Fantasy Golf Pod. They go live Wednesday mornings, usually around 11 a.m. Check them out on YouTube. See when the video does go live. It's a good way to keep track of it there. When we talk about pass optimal and GPP winning lineups, I actually want to start with one thing first. If you didn't already know, check out SweetSpotDFS.com. Go look at the cheat sheet that I have available there. I have a little tab down here called price conversion. I don't know if you can see it on the screen, but I'm trying to hover over it with my mouse over here. I have a price conversion. I want to mention this before I get into the pass optimal and GPP winning lineups because pricing on DraftKings has been weird since the Genesis Invitational. It was either at the Genesis or slightly before or after it. DraftKings introduced a 5K range. And what they've actually done now is kind of this barbell pricing strategy where you get a ton of expensive guys at the top and then a bunch of really low price guys at the bottom. And then there's just this weird in between where there's not a lot of golfers in between. It's very like the pricing's very heavy at the top with very few golfers. And then it's very like there's a ton of golfers down at the bottom with 5K price range or 5K prices attached to their name. So here's what I did. I looked at all of the US Open salaries or all of the US Opens and the salary structures that the US Opens have had. And I pretty much put the average salaries and how many golfers were in each of those salary ranges. So on average, and I'm going to show this to you in a different way, on average, you had about 6 golfers. Here I have the numbers right here. This is my bucket page when it comes to the whole how the bucket system is created with the engines for every single tournament. Here are the salary totals. So for the 10K range, that's what this top range is. You had 5 in 2023, 6 in 2022, 5 in 2021, 6 in 2020. And you can see all the way across, I actually averaged the numbers out right here. So 5.86 ends up being the average for the salary totals. There are 6 this week. I determined there are 6, but there are also 6. So if I go back to that cheat sheet, you can see there are actual 6 golfers. Scotty Scheffler's 13,000, Rory's 12,1, Xander's 11,5, Rahm is 10,9, DeChambeau's 10,1, and Koepka is 10,000. So we can have 6 10K golfers. I think that's absolutely fine. If I go back to my bucket system engine, we go down to the 9K range. The 9K range sees about 6 on average. Well, I put in 8. Because in the past 3 years, you've seen 7, 8, 7. Sure, there's some 6s and some 4s. I'm probably going to ignore 2017 and 2018 because DraftKings was figuring out their pricing system. You're going to see more, it's more averaged out here. And as I did all of the numbers, you can see all of the ranges basically fit with each other. So 42 7K golfers, you see 40, 43 in the last 3 years. 42 6.5 and up golfers, you're going to see 40, 41, 43. So I made that 42. And then when it came to low 6K golfers, you see 48, 52, 52, 57. I have 48. So that's how I did it. I did a price conversion. And again, you can check that out at on the cheat sheet. You can either access the cheat sheet by the link in the description below, or you can check out the cheat sheet if you go to SweetSpotDFS.com. Go up into the fantasy tools and go to cheat sheet. And it'll bring you to this page right here where you can access the cheat sheet. Now going back to the conversion. So yeah, we have 6 10Ks on DraftKings no matter what. Now I consider anything 10K and above a 10K golfer. 9K is a bit different. So normally we have somewhere between we have 7 to 8 9K golfers. I determined there were going to be 8 in this conversion. I think it's just natural, and I kind of used 2021's salaries and just pasted those here. Now, on average in 2023, your average salary was $7,100 $7,100. Most of these salaries that are coming out from DraftKings as of late have been around the $6,400 mark. So average salary, I want that to sink in. Just think of that. The average salary has dropped $700. That's really telling you how many more cheap golfers are at the bottom. But either way, I'm considering these 9K golfers. And the reason that I'm doing all of this price conversion is when we go over the pass optimal and GPP winning lineups, I want you to understand these are 9K golfers. And then these are 8K golfers. You can see there are 3 8K golfers that I consider a 9K golfer. And you're going to see there are 5 7K golfers that I consider an 8K golfer. Now I could change that up, but I think how I've split them up is absolutely, I shouldn't say absolutely, but it's pretty darn close to being average and fair for what we've seen in the past. And the big reason that I'm doing this is if we're going to analyze salaries, which I think is an important piece of the whole puzzle, DraftKings power ranks their golfers by their salaries that they give them. So Scotty Scheffler, obviously the best golfer in the world, best golfer in this tournament, he's $13,000. Makes sense, right? They're not putting some Joe Schmo up here in the 10K range just because. They're not adding volatility to this just because. They're putting the best golfers at the top of their pricing. So why not analyze to see how well they do at every single tournament, including this one, the US Open. So I want to be as consistent as possible with my analysis. I do have to take into consideration that it is different this week. But as I analyze these golfers for their salaries and their other stats, I do want to, I guess the word I would use is I would want to categorize them into these specific salary ranges. So as you can see, there's an 8K range. And again, check it out at the check out the cheat sheet. Link in the description or visit SweetSpotDFS.com. And then the 7K range is a little bit larger. It includes a lot of 6K golfers. So when I talk about 7K combo buckets or just 7K golfers, Billy Horschel at $6,600, I would consider a 7K golfer. And then the same applies for this top 6K range. There are some 5K golfers in there. And then this bottom range, which I deem the 5K range or just tier 6 salaries, you're going to see the rest of the 5K range there. And again, all of this is to analyze. So let's go over the pass optimal and GPP winning lineups. And again, this goes back to 2017, where your optimal lineup used up $49,700 of the salary. It includes a 10K golfer, 2 9s, a 7, and 2 6s. So kind of stars and scrubs. Those are your top golfers in the field, or the top golfers in the leaderboard. Now, it is worth noting that Xander Schauffele, who was also a 6K golfer at the time, who had no tournament history, so that was his first US Open, finished 5th place, and he was $6,400. So if you're looking at like those low end price golfers, you know, a good skilled golfer goes a long way. But then you also had Bill Haas, which was kind of a crafty veteran, and then Brian Harman, who had missed cut as his only tournament history. I think it was just he'd only played one. Could have been more, but didn't do so well in previous ones. So I don't know, but they're no names, right? Xander, definitely a well-known name now. Brian Harman, a well-known name. Not so much Bill Haas. If you're new to the game, you probably never heard of Bill Haas, but if you've been around for a while, you do know who Bill Haas is. In 2018, the optimal lineup left $500 on the table. So far, we're not leaving a lot of money on the table for the perfect lineup. In your optimal lineup, start with a 9K golfer, an 8, an 8, a 7, an 8, a 7. So very balanced. That one, very different from the year before. So this is 2018, 2017, very stars and scrubs. 2018, very balanced. And it looks like I tried to create a 10-9-8, 7-7-6 lineup, which you can see on the screen in green, which is true, I did. And that used up $49,900. If you are unaware, that's usually my jingle. Start your lineups with a 10-9-8, 7-7-6 start. and then make a couple substitutions from there. It's probably the best way to go about building lineups. And it is the most common GPP winning lineup build, as well as the most common optimal lineup build, going 10, 9, 8, 7, 7, 6. In 2019, your optimal lineup left $200 on the table. That started with an 8K golfer, Gary Woodland, $9,700 Justin Rose. I'm not going to name all the names, but it's an 8, 9, 8, 6, 8, 7. Or a different way to say that, you start with one 9K golfer, you put in two. I'm sorry, I saw that differently. Yeah, one 9K golfer, two 8K golfers. I can't see very well. 9, 8, 8, 8. So 1, 9, 3 8K golfers, a 7, and then a 6. The green was just messing with my eyes there, but that's a bit of a unique lineup build. 1 9K golfer, 3 8K golfers. You rarely see that in a winning lineup or even an optimal lineup. I do have an alternate lineup or an alternative lineup. Starts with a 10K golfer, 9, 8, 7, 6, 6. So you can start with a 10K golfer. I don't know how many points that would have scored versus the optimal versus the GPP, but that's what you have in 2019. In 2020, the optimal left $100 on the table. And that started with a 10K golfer, a 9, 3 7s, and a 6, which is pretty darn close to a 10, 9, 8, 7, 7, 6 start. You just sub 1 8 down to a 7 and you have it there. That was also your $1 short game winning lineup. So the GPP I'd played in that week, that scored the most points. It was perfect. So in case you're wondering, chasing the optimal lineup, that's a bit far-fetched. It's very difficult. Well, so far, if I was to average out how much money we've left on the table, it's going to be around like $200, $300. You can see right here, optimal lineup left only $100 on the table. The most we've seen so far is $300 on the table. So the cream definitely rises to the top, and you can build lineups using the 10, 9, 8, 7, 7, 6 approach. Going to 2021, once again, optimal lineup left $400 on the table. And that starts with an 11K golfer, or a 10K golfer, as I like to call it. A 10K, a 9K, an 8K, a 7, a 6, and a 6. I like that kind of lineup build. Putting two 6K golfers in your lineup, or maybe this year you'd call it two 9Ks, and then loading up with probably Scotty Scheffler, if I'm being honest with you. Scotty, and then another really good golfer, like say maybe a Colin Morikawa. I mean, I think lineup builds now are. So let me put it different. Let me put it in a way maybe you're not thinking. Lineup builds aren't that different from previous years if you use the price conversion that I have on the cheat sheet. Again, you can find a link to that in the description below, or visit SweetSpotDFS.com. If you use that price conversion, you're going to see a lot of possibilities with building lineups. Putting two 6K golfers and a 7K golfer, which includes some golfers in the 6K range. Just throwing that out there again. And then you can have a 10. Maybe you can have two 10s, to be quite honest. Maybe you can put a Scheffler and maybe a Brooks lineup together. That includes two 6Ks and two 7Ks. Probably not, but I'd have to lineup build just to see how possible that is. But it's out there. It's not out of the realm of possibilities. I'm not going to stay too much on that. Your Millie Maker lineup that year, by the way. So the optimal left $400 on the table. The Millie Maker left $500 on the table. And the optimal scored 492. The Millie scored 463. So 29 points separated them. Pretty darn good. Like you could fit right in there. If you don't hit the optimal, you can still build a better lineup. The GPP that year looks pretty balanced. 93, 95, 81, 73, 79, 74. And that used up 49,500 of the salary. And just to repeat in a different way, it's two 9K golfers, an 8K golfer, and three 7s. So very balanced. And that was only 29 points behind the optimal lineup. So you've got some decisions to make. You go optimal and try to put in the best core of golfers you possibly can that have the highest floor, or do you try to build something a little bit riskier to try to hit the perfect lineup and ensure you won't lose? Because that's the only way you won't lose is if you have the optimal. In 2022, okay, guess what? Your optimal only left $400 on the table. And that included, hey, look at that, another 11K golfer and Scotty Scheffler. Oh, a 9K, an 8K, a 7, a 7. Stoneman 6K golfer and Hayden Buckley. That was your optimal lineup. Your GPP winning lineup only did the $5 that year, left no money on the table, and it started with those top three guys, 11, 9, 8. Then we had a 7, 6, 7, or 7, 7, 6. Really, it's a 10, 9, 8, 7, 7, 6. So your optimal lineup build was that way. Your GPP winning lineup was that way. And oh, I have a sweet spot optimal also, which is 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 6. So you've already heard that one before in the optimal lineup. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 6. The optimal scored 489.5. Let me say that again. If I don't know if I mumbled that, but 489.5. The GPP winning lineup scored 480.5. 9 points separated the optimal versus the GPP. So if you don't really truly think you need to be perfect, think again. And then the sweet spot optimal scored 482.5, which just edged out that GPP winning lineup. So I just gave you 3 different lineups that you could have built in 2022. And you would have won all the money. And they're all slightly different. Some were the same, or, you know, the GPP and the optimal both had the 10, 9, 8, 7, 7, 6. The sweet spot had the 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 6. And then last year, your optimal lineup left $400 on the table. So the most money we've left on the money, or the most money we've left on the table is $500 when it comes to the optimal lineup. And in this optimal, we do not have an 11K golfer, but you have a 9, another 9, 7, 7, 7. Ooh, I think I have 2 optimal lineup builds. Let me read what they say. Optimal lineup that can be exchanged with Minwoo Lee. Okay, so the more expensive route is to go with Tom Kim instead of Minwoo. Both of them are 7K golfers, by the way. So anyways, that would be a 9, 9, 7, 7, 7, 7. So with Tom Kim, you leave $400 on the table. Without Tom Kim, because Tom Kim and Minwoo Lee tied, $7,000 actually leaves $1,200 on the table, because that 800 drop or 800 price drop puts you down below 49,000. But again, 49.6. The whole moral of the story, or not so much the moral of the story, but what you find most common is don't leave that much money on the table, because the optimal lineup doesn't require you to do that. The Millie Maker winning lineup left $400 on the table as well. And that one started, it's these golfers in blue, by the way. It's a 9K, 9K, 7, 7, 7, 7. 4 7s and 2 9s. So last year was very balanced. And then I do have a sweet spot optimal that used up all 50,000 in the salary, and that also started a 9, 9, 3 7s, and an 8. Now your optimal scored 552. The Millie scored 543. So again, 9 points separates the perfect lineup from the Millie Maker. And then the sweet spot lineup scored 541.5. So we actually did not beat out the Millie Maker last year, but we were behind by 1.5 points. This is one of those moments where if you get enough 9K golfers in the top of the leaderboard, it will drown out Scotty Scheffler at his price tag if Scotty does not win, or just obviously score more points. Let's see, can I put together a Scotty lineup here? If I go Scotty, Rory, Wyndham, Ricky, Minwoo, I do have $6,700 to play with. Can I find a $6,700 golfer? How about this guy down here? So I'd be leaving $500 on the table. Can I actually upgrade to anyone? I cannot. I also could go with Jordan Smith. No, I could not. Never mind. It is him or Nick Hardy. This guy or Nick Hardy. We'll go with this guy. which you would never choose Ryotaro and Nagano. But let me see how many points this would have scored. Again, you had to be pretty darn close to perfect, so I don't think this is going to do it. This would have scored 536.5. And that would have been 6.5 points behind first place. So Millie Maker the winning lineup for the Millie Maker scored 543. This would have scored 536.5. So it would have been close. It would have been close, and you could have used a Scotty Scheffler. You probably were getting 4th place money or 5th place money, which would have been sad, but hey, it's doable. Like, I mean, I think you'd be happy with that. I don't think I'm scared of using Scotty this week. I think if you really want to, the pricing actually it allows you to do it more so than any of the previous years, because having that 6K floor. So Scheffler was 11.4 last year, right? But there are more golfers bunched closer to 11.4 than there are this year at Scheffler at 13,000. So I think, well, obviously your average lineups. Let me bring back that cheat sheet just so you guys are aware. I have a price conversion tab, and that's what you see on the screen right now. 13,000. The average salary in 2023 was $7,100. And just to go back to this page, I'm going to go ahead and put a filter on this, and I'm going to sort from top to bottom so you guys can see the salaries from last year. Scotty Scheffler started at 11.4. If I scroll all the way down and I just select all of them and I look at my average salary was $7,067. $7,067. And to put that into perspective, this year, again, I'll go back to that price conversion tool, and you guys can check, you can fact check me here. If I go ahead and I select Scotty and I scroll all the way down to the bottom and I select all of them, what I can see, actually, I can just show you this. It's going to be really small font. But I use this little guy right down here to see what my average is. 64.23 is the average salary. But I also can click into here and show you that this is a formula. This is looking at everything in column D. It's an average. So with that much money, that's, $7,100 versus $6,400, it's about $700. That $700 allows you to do so much more with your lineup building. So don't be afraid of Scotty. Scotty's already proven at the high price tag that he is, even at 13.5, he was in the optimal lineup. I think it was 13.5, maybe it was 12.5. He was in the optimal lineup. When he's won a tournament, he's been in the optimal lineup every single time, even at high, ridiculous price tags. So I want you to be clear about that. If you do think Scotty's going to win this tournament, or, you just don't want to fade Scotty, play Scotty, because you can do so much more with your lineup builds. And just to show you, if you wanted to do a 10.98.776 following this price conversion, remember, this is their salary right here, but this is their adjusted salary. So let's go with Scotty at $13,000. I can come down here and pick Cam Smith at 87. This is still considered a 9K golfer. 9,100 is what the adjusted salary I have for Cam Smith is. Scroll down to the 8K range. Well, maybe you like Sahith Theegala, $7,600 this year, but if it was adjusted, he'd be 8,100. And then I come down to the 7K range, and I got to pick 2 golfers from here, or at least that's what we normally do. I can already tell you, I really like Benny Ann, and I really like Russell Henley. So with these golfers right here, just so you can see, I have the salary, the sum of the salary right here. I don't know if you can see it. Zoom in if you can on your screen. It's $43,300. That's how much I've spent already. Meaning I have $6,700 to play with. Remember, I'm still in the 7K range. This is the 7K range. I could choose anyone that's $6,700 or cheaper. So what about Billy Horschel? He's been playing really well. This lineup right here that I just built traditionally would be a 10.98.777, but this year it is a 13.8.776.6. So like the pricing is going to be weird to you because DraftKings obviously has this 5K range and so many golfers that are just cheap. So many golfers underneath $8,300, which is your average salary you can spend on DraftKings. So much more than you've seen before, and the average price underneath $8,300 is lower than it's ever been. So you can do a lot of things with lineups. Now, what if you like, okay, hey, I mentioned this, right? Let's try it. Scotty and Brooks. I'm going to put those two golfers together. Said you could probably do this. We're going to skip the 9K range because we pretended, or let's just pretend we actually upgraded or substituted up. And let's grab Hideki Matsuyama. He's a little bit more expensive. So now I start with a $13,000 golfer, $13,000 golfer, a $10,000 golfer, and now an $8,000 golfer. I've used up $31,000 of the salary so far. So I have $19,000 to play with. I'm already not even scared, to be quite honest with you. I pick one of these top guys. Let's go with Minwoo Lee at $7,300. Now I only have $11,700 to play with, but guess what? I have a 5K range to work with. So let's go down here, find one of these 5K golfers that seem reasonable to play. To be honest, I don't really see anyone that's quote unquote reasonable. Gordon Sargent was in the optimal lineup last year, I think, or a GPP winning lineup, one of the lineups. Maybe it was a SweetSpot optimal. He's $5,400, so I could literally play him if I wanted to, but I have 11,700. So I could pick any of these. Tim Whiting. I like Tim Whiting. I'm going to use him. Now I have $6,100 I can play with. I can come up here. Ooh, Mark Hubbard, $49,900. And that's starting with a Scotty Scheffler, Brooks Koepka, Hideki Matsuyama start. And it would fit in with the whole SweetSpot process. You know, if we start 10, 9, 8, 7, 7, 6 and make a couple substitutions, we're subbing one of our 9s up to a 10. And I have a 10-10 start, and then a 8K, 1-7, and we skip the other 7s and we make another substitution from a 7 down to a 6. There you go with Mark Hubbard and also Tim Whiting. Maybe you don't like Tim Whiting. That's fine. Maybe you like Sam Bennett instead. Sam Bennett's a pretty good golfer. Now you're using up $50,000 of your salary. So those are ways you can get a little bit different when it comes to building lineups this week. And it follows the pass optimal and GPP winning lineup strategies that I've been talking about throughout the entire year. Okay. I do not have anything else to go with the pass optimal and GPP winning lineups. Let's go ahead and talk about the bucket system. When it comes to the bucket system, I like to start here, the summary page. This gives us kind of an idea of how many golfers from each bucket we want to play from. And before I get further into this, just a reminder, if you have no idea what the bucket system is, I actually have 2 resources you can use. One, check out the video that I created for the bucket system. There's a link for that video in the description of this video. Just click on it, watch the first 5-6 minutes. You might not even have to watch that much. It is an 18-minute long video, but it explains about the bucket system. If you don't have the ability to listen to that, or even have the attention span for it, you can read about it. If you go to my website, SweetSpotDFS.com, again, there's a link for that in the description. You go to Fantasy Tools, go to Articles. I have opened up a new tab. This is loading. You're going to find 2 articles that I have written. One is for combo buckets. The other one is for the bucket system. If you just click on the bucket system, it's actually going to open up a new tab, and you're going to be able to read all about the bucket system, what it is, all of the stats that I look at, and how each of the buckets are created. So again, SweetSpotDFS.com, under articles, you can check it out there. But when we go back to this page, again, I shouldn't say again, if you're just watching the bucket system version of this video, I will say this. I have this available to you on the cheat sheet as well. There is a link for the cheat sheet down in the description. And once again, you can find the cheat sheet on the website under Fantasy Tools cheat sheet. And that'll bring you to this page. You can click this button here and it'll actually bring you to the cheat sheet. Not only do I have the price conversion from the past optimal and GPP winner lineups, but I also have a bucket system tab, which talks about the US Open. So you can follow along with me as I go through this. Two important columns you want to look at is this min projection and max projection. I know it's backwards. It's just when I first created it, that's just how it works. When you're looking at these projections, there are 36 total buckets, and there are 6 buckets per stat category. So if you just wanted to look at the last year's, one thing you could do is put a filter on it up at the top of the header or the menu. You're going to see all the different buttons that you can click. One of them is filters. Hit the bucket system filter. And just make sure, I think when you first get it, you're not going to have any filters currently used. But if you only wanted to look at one of these buckets, one of the stat categories, go into the filter for that stat, clear everything out, and just look at one of the buckets. This is probably an easier way to explain it to you. So we're only looking at the last year's stat. Now, the totals for how many golfers are in these buckets should match how many golfers are in the field, and that's obviously 156. So you're going to see that right here under the bucket totals. Now, when it comes to how many golfers you should play from each of these buckets, or consider, I should say, you want to look at these two columns right here. And for each of the stat categories, you can see it. So for last year ones, I have a 2.48 for the minimum and a 4.13 for the maximum. Now to read this, you always want to round down with the minimum. So 2.48 turns into 2. And you always want to round up the maximum. 4.13 turns into 5. So the projection for this bucket would be, you want somewhere between 2, that's your minimum, to 5, which is your maximum golfers that you want to pick from. Now, to add a layer deeper to this, which I'm sure is already confusing to any of you that are new, if I go to my cheat sheet and I go ahead and I only look at the last year ones, which you can do by putting a filter on this sheet, which is in the cheat sheet, clear everything out and just select one under last year, you're going to find the 22 golfers that match that description. And of these 22 golfers, this is the layer that you have to consider. The projection says 2 to 5 golfers are going to finish inside the top 10 from this bucket. It's a pretty large range. I understand it's easy to, create, like be correct with that kind of projection. But here's the thing. I'm telling you, I'm projecting 2 to 5 to be inside the top 10. That should help you eliminate creating lineups with bad golfers in them. So like you can see these bottom 5 golfers right here. You have Ricky, Henley, English, Eckroat, and McCarthy. Well, guess what? You can build a lineup with those golfers. You can't do it that way. Can't do it that way. Is it something like this and this? Interesting. Something's not right. Oh, I have 6 golfers already selected. I'm like, this isn't, how is this not working out? This is 5 golfers selected. Okay, this with Scotty is 47,000. So I could actually unclick one of these guys and put in what? Can go further than that. Okay, so this right here. I could create a Scotty, Victor Hovland lineup, put Henley, English, Eckroat, and McCarthy in it. You might think that's a good lineup. I'm going to tell you right now, that's not going to win you a GPP because those 6 golfers aren't going to be in the optimal lineup. They're not even going to be a top 10 scoring lineup. Don't put together 6 golfers from this bucket. You might not even think about it because this bucket is golfers who top 20 this event last year. So you might already think, well, yeah, I want to put these guys together because they're just good. Don't do it. A popular lineup is going to start with Colin Morikawa. So a Scotty, Colin Morikawa lineup sounds pretty enticing. But who else? I mean, if you're going to select the bottom 4 golfers like I did in that last one, you're leaving $400 on the table. Don't do that. And by the way, you probably don't even have to do that. Can I go Tom Kim? I could do something like this. This equals 50,000 on the button. Scotty Scheffler, Morikawa, Tom Kim, Russell Henley, Austin Eckroat, and Denny McCarthy. Don't build a lineup like that. You're not going to win. Remember, the projection's 2 to 5. Here's the other thing. Here's that one layer I'm talking about. What's the likelihood of 5 of these golfers at the top finishing inside the top 10? It's pretty high, right? Maybe not Jon Rahm because he's battling some kind of injury or whatever. But these 4 golfers, you can include Koepka, Hovland, Morikawa, Cantlay. Guess what you can't do with those golfers? You can't put them all in a lineup together. So even if the projection's 2 to 5 and 5 of those guys at the top finish inside the top 10, the bucket is a success. But guess what you can't do? You can't put those 5 golfers in a lineup. This is what I've had to learn the hard way because I used to take that very literal. Like, yes, I do want 2 to 5 golfers, so I'm going to select my favorite 5 or my favorite 4 golfers. Well, the only way to do that to build a lineup is you're going to have to grab some of these lower price guys, and it completely eliminates the thought process of, oh, wait a minute, 5 of these guys can finish inside the top 10. So when you do your own research and you're using the bucket system, just remember that. You have to look at every bucket with fresh eyes, basically. And you have to consider the fact that these guys at the top of the salary leaderboard, as we would call it, have a very much higher chance of finishing inside the top 10 as some of these guys down at the bottom. But the fact that this projection is 2 out of 5, I can already tell you I really like Russell Henley this week. I also don't mind Minwoo or Tom Kim. I obviously like Scotty Scheffler. I got no issue playing Rory if it's not Scotty. And I got no issue playing Xander if it's not Scotty or Rory. And I do want to pair him up with Morikawa or Hovland. I like Hovland this week despite everyone else talking about, well, you don't want to play him on these tight lie surfaces because he can't chip. That's a crock of, it's bullshit. Seriously, don't listen to those people. That's like nerds trying to get really cute with golf analysis. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work. It doesn't apply. Here are my favorite plays. Cam Smith, like if I'm going to put a lineup together, Cam Smith, Collin Morikawa, and Scotty Scheffler. Those 3 golfers, I don't mind anchoring around in all of my lineups. And then I can splash in Russell Henley. And just to give you an idea what kind of price, like what kind of salaries we got left, those 4 golfers leaves me with $12,000, which we just discussed in the past optimal and GPP win lineup segment. You can build lineups pretty darn easy with those golfers. So oh my God, this makes me, I really like this combo. So just so you're aware, I just wanted to let you guys know how to look at the bucket system. Another thing that might be confusing is like this bucket right here. Last year 3s. You can see if you round down from 0.34, you get 0. You round up from 0.57, you get 1. There is a rule that you want at least a 2-point buffer between your minimum and maximum projections. So this bucket is a 0 to 2. That is the projection for that bucket. Just so you're aware, 0 to 2. When you have a bucket like this last year 4 where it's similar, there are only 2 golfers in that bucket. Be cognizant of that. 0 to 2 is unlikely to happen. And quite frankly, you can see there's been a max of 1 to finish inside the top 10 of any year that I've had salaries. Not salaries, the buckets. And you see 0 in the optimal lineup, 0 inside the top 5. Success rate's kind of high, 10%. That's pretty good. That's of all golfers from that bucket. Let's take a look at who those golfers are this year. I wonder if there's anyone notable. I haven't even looked. Ryo Ishikawa and Maxwell Moldovan. Yep. Don't play any of those guys. There's just, if you want to get cute and play Ryo, go for it. But the other guy, just don't. Save yourself some money or give it to me. I'll spend it better than what you would do if you're to play Max or Ryo. Just don't do it. And that's Ryo Ishikawa. All right, so I'm actually going to open this all up and we're going to go over the anchor buckets because it shouldn't change. The field should be pretty much set. I have all 156 golfers in the field. So if you want to follow along with me, all you have to do is in the max projection, filter by condition, go greater than or equal to 2, and then hit OK. This will give you all of your anchor buckets. Now, I'm not going to go over every single one of these golfers. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to limit what I'm looking at, but this is where you would get all your anchor buckets. That means at least one is in the minimum projection, at least one. Here's actually something I just noticed. You have access to this on the cheat sheet. You see this salary. By the way, you can ignore salaries, but do you see this column over here in purple? I have 1.95 as the max projection. If this column in the purple, max projection, if it's less than 2, I want you to automatically make your minimum 0 for that bucket. So if I look at this salary 9, the 9K range is 1.20, which you round down to 1. 2.01, we round up to 2. I know it's really close to 2, but obviously this says 1.95. Now this bucket actually becomes a 0 to 3 projected bucket. That means 0 could finish inside the top 10, or up to 3 could finish inside the top 10, which is kind of, you know, strange. And if you're wondering, this also includes my, the salaries include my price conversion. So if you are kind of doing your own homework and going, wait a minute, there aren't 42 7K golfers, there aren't 8 9K golfers, I did a price conversion. You can find that on the cheat sheet. I discussed it throughout my entire preview video. I discussed it during the Pass Optimal and GPP winning lineups. Check out those videos if you haven't already. If you're watching the preview right now, you probably already heard it. Or maybe if you weren't paying attention, rewind backwards. You're going to find it there. But that's how you would actually look at a bucket like this that has a very low projection between 1 to 3. So now that you know how to look at the buckets, I'm going to limit this, and we're just going to talk about a few of the buckets. I'm going to select all the buckets that have 27 or less golfers from it, and we're going to go through the list. We already talked about the last year ones, so we're going to skip that. We're going to go to last week ones, which is a bit interesting because most US Opens, I want to show you something really quick. Most US Opens, if I go to my last year buckets, this is kind of the engine page that runs all of the buckets. I want you to look at this right here. This is salary, or these are the totals, not salary, I'm sorry. These are the totals for the last year bucket for the top and the last week bucket for the bottom. Every single year, we see somewhere between 110 to 130 golfers who did not play the week before heading into the US Open. You want to know what what tournament came before the US Open? The Canadian Open. And guess what? Not everyone played in the Canadian Open. Only a few golfers would go and play in the Canadian Open and then play in the US Open. This year's different. The tournament that preceded the US Open was the Memorial Tournament, which was a signature event. So you actually had more golfers playing in the Memorial than you did any other time. We have 21 golfers who finished inside the top 20 last week in this tournament in the US Open. And like I told you, 110 to 130 that did not play the week before. Now we have 91. And this includes the live golfers, by the way. And you can see all the other numbers are higher. So I have a total of 65 golfers from last week playing this week. Any other year, the year before, 23. The year before that, 32. The year before that, 28. The year before that, 19. The year before that, 38. The year before that, 31. The year before that, 32. The year before that, 26. And the year before that, 25. Again, this year, 65. 65. Almost double of any other year of golfers playing the week before. That's going to skew these numbers slightly. And I say that, and it doesn't really matter because the last week ones are such a high quality bucket. I include the strength of field points, by the way, in these bucket projections. 41% of the strength of field goes towards this bucket. So that's why the projection is 2 to 4. technically it's 1 to 4 because this minimum is 3. I would drop this 2 down to a 1. So this bucket is a 1 to 4. I only wanted to mention that because it is a bit different and we can actually change the rules by using just reason. That's kind of why I'm mentioning it, because the buckets are including past success rates and stuff like that from the tournament beforehand of golfers coming into the US Open. And past Canadian Opens were much weaker strength of field events than the Memorial Tournament, which was played this year before the US Open. I know that's kind of confusing, but I hope you were able to stay along with me. I just want you just to summarize this really, really easily. Last week's tournament here, this is the 2024 US Open. The tournament before was the Memorial Tournament, which was a signature event. In 2023 and previous years, the event that was before the US Open was the RBC Canadian Open. You didn't have a high quality field in those Canadian Opens, not compared to this week's or this year's Memorial Tournament that once again preceded the US Open. So that changes numbers. It skews numbers a little bit. It's still a pretty high projection, 1 to 4. I could almost say 2 to 4 for sure are going to finish inside the top 10 from this bucket, because look at the bucket. You get Scotty Scheffler, who won last week. Rory McIlroy's in it. Xander, Victor, Ludwig Oberg, Colin Morikawa. A lot of names we've already talked about. So like I've said before, some of my favorite golfers to play would be Scotty Scheffler, Victor Hovland, Colin Morikawa. I really like Hideki Matsuyama this week. I don't mind going to Sungjae Im. Disappointed I don't see Russell Henley here, because Russell Henley is probably one of my favorite plays too this week. But I mean, you can also see golfers that were in that last year one bucket. These 4 golfers. I'm using this column right here. So these 4 golfers, these 3 golfers. Scroll down and we don't see anyone else that was in the last year one bucket. So those 7 golfers, I could see some overlap. I could see 2 of those guys, if not maybe 3 or 4, finishing inside the top 10. Just if you are hard to see, Scotty Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, Xander Schauffele, Victor Hovland, Colin Morikawa, Tommy Fleetwood, and Matt Fitzpatrick. I don't mind going to Matt Fitzpatrick this week. He showed us a little something at Jack's place last week that I think is trending in the right direction. And he's $8,200. If you wanted to select 3 golfers here, guess what? Scotty Scheffler at 13, Colin Morikawa at 9.4, or even Hovland at 9.8 to go along with Fitzpatrick. Leaves you $19,000 for your remaining 3 golfers. You can build a lineup very easily this week, starting that way. So that's one way to think about it. Just one way to think about it. But again, this is all available to you on the cheat sheet, which again, you can find a link in the description below, or go to SweetSpotDFS.com to find it there. Going to the next bucket, course history 2s. Now, course history really means tournament history, just so you're all aware. And let's look at tournament history 1 golfers. You have Xander, Brooks, Tom Kim, and Min Woo Lee. There are only 4 golfers in this bucket, and it's probably because they don't have a lot of tournament history. Now, obviously, Xander does, so too does Brooks, but Tom Kim and Min Woo Lee do not. So I like this bucket. I bet you the projection isn't even that low. I'm not going to redo everything, but, you know, 1 golfer from this bucket, maybe 2 would be the max, but I don't know, because the number's so small, like the volume of golfers are so small, you probably just want to, don't go overboard. Don't select 4 golfers from this bucket. It's just not, I don't think it's going to work out for you. But course history 2s are golfers with, you know, pretty good tournament history. Again, course history and tournament history for me is the same thing. Just I'm aware I might be confusing you. I just want you to know it's the same thing, course history and tournament history. But this bucket has Scotty Scheffler in it, Rory McIlroy, Jon Rahm, Bryson in it. And then, hey, by the way, Colin Morikawa is also in this bucket. I've already told you how much I like Colin Morikawa. And this projection is 1 to 3. And that stays the same even when looking at this column here. So 1 to 3. I already told you we could go Scotty and like Victor Hovland if we wanted to, but we could go Scotty, Colin Morikawa, and Hideki Matsuyama. Those 3 have been in all the buckets we've already been talking about. I like those golfers a lot. Trying to find some other decent golfers. Oh no, I need to update Adam Scott's stroke gain stats. Oh, they should be. I know what I have to do. It doesn't really matter. His stroke gain stats, it's not affecting anything, but I do need to update that. So he's a different color than that dark red because he does have strokes gain data. But anyways, 1 to 3. And if I just selected the 3 golfers that I think are going to finish inside the top 10, you know what I do with the rest of those golfers that I have not selected? I cut them out of my player pool. I'm not gonna select any of those golfers. 3's the max that I'm gonna play from this bucket, and I think it's very doable to select 3 golfers, even the high price golfers. So keep that in mind. The next one are recent form 1 golfers, which are golfers with the best recent form coming into the event. And again, put a filter on this, make sure all the other filters are cleared out, and just select recent form 1s. We don't have a lot of golfers in this bucket. We have 11. And the projection is very similar to course history 2s. We want 1 to 3. You've seen Scotty in each of these buckets that we've talked about. You've seen Rory in each of these buckets. You have seen Xander in each of the buckets. No, Xander was in the course history 1, but you know what? You can still involve him. He can still be included. You've almost seen Victor in all of them. He was in the course history 3 bucket when we were looking at course history 2, but you've seen Colin Morikawa in each of these buckets. You've almost seen Fleetwood in each of them, but that's not the case. And hey, Benny N and Russell Henley, those are favorite golfers of mine. If I was building a lineup, like I've been kind of telling you guys, Scotty would be number 1. But I also don't mind going to Rory. But let's say if I go to Scotty, hey, there's Victor once again. But let's just stick with Colin Morikawa. We chose Hideki Matsuyama in a different bucket. Hideki's not in this bucket. So I could go Scotty, Colin Morikawa, and round it out with Russell Henley. Here's the other thing that comes with it. I know I also like Byung-Hun An. But if I'm following the sweet spot process all the way, I am not forcing that in. That's fine. I don't have to play Benny An. Maybe this is a way to reduce my exposure to, say, high-owned golfers or golfers with high volatility. It is kind of a shame that I can't really play all 4 of them together. I mean, I could, but I'm not going to break my own rules. But I do like the idea of kind of building a lineup like this. I mean, it's probably Scotty, Colin, and one of these 2 guys, or maybe I just don't choose Colin at all. Or Victor, and it's Scotty with Benny An and Russell Henley. Maybe this is how you get off of someone like a Colin Morikawa or a Victor Hovland, and you insert someone else. I mean, like, let's look at our recent form 2 golfers. Well, Matt Fitzpatrick's there, and so too is Hideki Matsuyama, so maybe you could put those lineups together, like a Matt Fitzpatrick and Hideki Matsuyama. No one else really interests me. Like, I'm not that interested in Koepka, I'm not that interested in JT or Max Homa, but I do like Fitzpatrick. I actually don't mind Tony Finau this week, and I kind of like Hideki Matsuyama. Anyways, moving on. I'm not going to talk about the salaries. 9K range, we already kind of mentioned that. Strokes gain stats, we have strokes gain 1 and 2 buckets. And one is a 2 to 4 projection, but I might even drop that down to a 1 to 4 because this is very close to being under 3. And this is very close to being under 2. So I actually might make this a 0 to 3 bucket for the strokes gain 2. But one easy way to do this is just sort A to Z on the strokes gain stats, and you're going to see the 18 golfers in the strokes gain 1 bucket and the 24 in the strokes gain 2. I think Adam Scott will be somewhere in there once I make the updates. I don't know if he'll be in the strokes gain 1 or 2, but for whatever reason, he didn't get updated to the strokes gain stats that I need him to, or the buckets. Anyways, you're going to see Scotty Scheffler's in there. Scotty Scheffler's a bad putter. That's why he's in the strokes gain 3 bucket. But when it comes to strokes gained 1 and 2, remember this one here, I'm kind of saying it's going to be a 1 to 4 projected inside the top 10. It's technically 2 to 4. Well, there's my guy, Colin Morikawa. We like that. I also really like Cam Smith, by the way. I like Benny Ann, and I like Russell Henley. So those could be my 4 golfers. Those could be my 4. Of course, we can't do Benny Ann, Russell Henley, and Colin Morikawa. So maybe we take one of these guys out and say maybe it's Benny Ann. And actually, I could put in Tom Kim, right? Because Tom Kim wasn't in the other bucket we were looking at with Scotty Scheffler, Colin Morikawa, and Russell Henley. So maybe it's this way. These are like natural pivots that can happen with the bucket system. But yeah, 2 to 4. And it literally, and oh, by the way, this bucket will be successful if Rory and Xander finish inside the top 10 and the rest of them do not. And maybe Scotty Scheffler wins this tournament and you need Scotty. That means you probably can't play Rory, and that also means you probably can't play Xander. So although 2 golfers from this bucket finish inside the top 10, they satisfy the bucket projection, meaning it's successful. You still can't play 2 of these golfers. These are things you got to think about. Down here, we want 1 to 3 golfers to put in our lineup, or at least that's what we're projecting to be inside the top 10. And I don't think anything breaks your bank. Brooks Koepka could, Victor Hovland could. They could both break your bank. The rest of them, though, you can just jam into your lineups. So if we do think 1 golfer from this bucket will finish inside the top 10, remember I did say I'm going to change it to a 0 to 3 projection. I think any of these golfers are live, especially if you do not like Brooks or Victor. If you want to avoid them, here are your pivots. You go into the 7 and 6K range. So that's one way to look at the bucket, or all of the buckets. And that's exactly what I kind of do, but I also just use my optimizer, which I do not have built yet. I have to wait for the tee times from the PGA Tour, which usually come out on Tuesday. I mean, this will be coming from the USGA, but it'll go to the PGA Tour. I copy it from there because it's easy. I've got a whole system, and then I'll put it to my spreadsheets, the cheat sheet, my own spreadsheet, and then I will create the optimizer after I get all of the tee times into the optimizer. So be on the lookout for that. You can request that optimizer at SweetSpotDFS.com. And you know what? Before I go any further, just want to actually, before we go any further, that's the end of the anchor buckets. It's the end of the bucket system segment of the preview video. Before I sign off, I want to remind you that tomorrow, Tuesday, I will be going live at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. So be on the lookout. I will have a video, or I will have something posted in YouTube. I will have something posted in Twitter, X, that will say when I'm going live. I will also have the optimizer ready tomorrow before I go live. The whole website, if you are unaware, go sign up. I will have the combo buckets updated after the stream tomorrow night. You can see how the Memorial Tournament did in the meantime. Again, go to SweetSpotDFS.com, make yourself an account. Giveaways going forward will be for memberships. But if you want to be in the giveaway for tomorrow night, again, Tuesday night, 8 p.m., I'm giving away $100. Let me throw this on the screen. There we go. I'm giving away $100. I need 3 new subscribers, though. 3 new ones. And I will give away $100. If I can get 10 more after my sub goal, so if we get to 760, I'll add $10 to the pot. And for every 10 subscribers I get, I will just add 10 more dollars. So if you aren't subscribed, please do so. Highly or greatly appreciated. But yeah, that's what I have for the giveaway reminders. So if you're not on SweetSpotDFS.com, go sign up. And if you're not subscribed to this channel, subscribe so we can give away some money. That's all that I have for this preview video. Thank you all for watching. Please leave a like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you in the next one. All right, bye.